This is what I told you. You start to see the numbers appearing magically. The 13, you just said it, Jesus and his followers made 13 about the religions. I mean, 13, and why suddenly is even the number 13 considered a bad sign? I don't know if it was done on purpose or what, why is the 13, we're seeing that it's so sacred, it's so important, and a lot of traditions use it. Why did it have this strange connotations? And I'm gonna actually now that we're gonna go deep into the mathematics and the structures of these tones and seals. So we're going to unpack this a little bit further, and it's very interesting because now we're bringing this math into the individual and the human collective of seeing humanity as a whole. All right. So this is where it starts to get very beautiful. What the Mayas stated in their cosmology is that the sun is the heart of our world, and the closest and the fastest way to get to God is not going out and looking into the, in the far distance, but there's like a nucleus there, and that's why the sun has like this core, and through him, and it's just pure light, and that's where we kind of, it's like a portal, like a wormhole into the heart of God. And what it says is that imagine the sun, it's like a heart that's beating. So every 260 days, and I'm going to tell you why, every 260 days or every day, you have a different energy that it's emanating. It's not just that the sun is pouring out light, but every 260 days, you have a new sequence starts. And I'm going to tell you about the sequence, and it's right here. I mean, you're going to be seeing the visuals. So you have this sequence, and you have the Solkim, which is this matrix, and you have the 13 tones of creation, which emanate from heaven. And then when you get to the solar system, when you get to our planet and basically the sun, because that's the heart of our system, they turn into 20 seals, and these seals, instead of going in numbers, because we know the 13 tones and they have the qualities, but they are referred to as tones. Then we come to the seals, and they are referred to as archetypes. And we start to seeing these symbols and these archetypes, and they are 20. And it starts with a dragon, and it ends up with a sun. And, in further programs, we're going to be discussing each one of them, and we're going to be unpacking them, each quality. But how do we make, or how did they construct this 260 energy day matrix? If you take the human body and you look at it, we have 13 joints. We have 2 ankles, we have 2 knees, 2 hips, right? Where's that? That's 6. Then we have 2 wrists, that's 8. We have 10. That's here, over here, that's 12. And here, our neck, that's 13. So we have 13 joints, we have 13 joints, right? And where do we find the 20 seals? Where do we find the 20 seals? We have 20 fingers and 20, I mean, not 20 fingers. If we had toes and fingers, we have 20. So why, it's kind of magical, right? So why do we have that there? And look at, if you kind of think of human beings and you compare them to what the animals that are here on Earth, and close your eyes and you think of them, we're more similar to what we have represented as aliens than to what we have as, well, except for primates, to what we have here as humans. And look at human beings, and look at these joints, and look at our fingers, and it's sort of, we're like an antenna. And this is what they say. And you look at our proportion, it's the golden proportion, you look at our fingers. If you do this, here's the spiral that we were talking. I don't know, I can see it in the camera. That's the spiral, and it starts here, and it evolves, and it goes into my arm, and everything just evolves. You see how this is like an antenna. So what it tells us is that human beings, our own material creation, our own body, is an antenna that is aligned, or that is in tune to receive this information, not just the sun, not just the photosynthesis from the sun, but everything that is there that we do not see. There's a lot of information that we're receiving that we do not see. So every day we're having, that's why when you say, why did suddenly somebody think about this, and somebody in the other part of the world also think about it, and then it kind of evolved in the same way? It's because we're receiving this structure, and that's the pattern that is encoded in the universe, and that we, even if we don't know it, we're following it, because that's the purpose, and that's the pattern that God laid out to be harmonious for us to be within a cycle that's iterating, repeating itself, and disclosing, it's just evolving. So here are the 13 tones and seals, and this makes these different combinations. It's 260 combinations that are called kins. And then we're going to be going into that deep, a little bit deeper. But these 260 combinations, if you kind of roughly map it out, gives you 9 months. So really, when the beginning of the conception to birth, it's roughly this cycle that the baby or the cell that turns out to be a baby is in the womb and is getting all this codification within the mother's womb, and basically preparing the life that it's going to be living, the start of life. And actually what it tells you is that before we really actually were born, there was something going on in different planes that was actually making us in there, getting everything together. And this is an interesting thing because we're seeing this pattern in a 2D mode. But if you would just make this like in a cylinder, you would see the DNA. These green parts is the DNA, and everything in between is like the dark matter within the universe, something that we've always known that there's something in there, that there's information. It's just not empty space, but we quite don't understand what's in there. So this is the same structure, and we follow within the same structure. All right. What it says is that we have a gear system, and imagine that we are, each individual is this gear. We are a gear that internally 13 tones are moving within this and are making these combinations. And then we are connected to this grander sequence. And this sequence is connected to another sequence and another sequence. And when we start to make connections and we start to have a relationship, personal relationship in this plane with other people, we are making those connections. We are intertwining our paths together. So it's very poetic, but it's true. We're intertwining our paths, and we are becoming, part of the lives of other people, and they are becoming part of our lives. And we're integrating those pieces and making and constructing humanity, constructing not only, and try to see it this way. Imagine that we are the cell and as individuals, and then humanity is the organism, it's the organ, let's say the heart. And then the universe is the whole body, and there's different parts that form the body.
It's interesting what you said, Santiago, because when I took my course in medicine, and the course that I loved the most was Anatomy and Physiology, A&P. And I will always remember when we studied the human body, but not on the blackboard or whatever, with real humans. Naturally, they were deceased, real humans. And I remember when I held a head in my hand, and the man looking at me with his eye open, I go, oh my God. And then the brain. And when we went inside the body and looked at the marvel, I remember when I put a lung in my hand like this, we have two lungs, one lung, and it weighed less than this little thing. And I thought, what a miracle. And then I just had this, and I'm saying this because of what you said, I just had this vision that God in the universe, we were in the body of God, and each and every one of us human beings are one tiny little cell. So that again, as above, so below. So as we move, the body of God moves. And so the breath of the universe and so on and so forth. So it was completely complementary. And to me, it was giving worth to the expression, life is truly a miracle. It's more than magic. It is a miracle. And so I see that we are part of the actual body, the cosmic body of God. And
Exactly.
it's inspiring, very
Exactly.
inspiring. And it makes us more conscious of the responsibility that we have. We have a responsibility in that part. If we don't want the body of God to catch cancer, we have to behave accordingly in harmony.
You don't have to be, you can't be a cancerous cell. You can't be rebellious. Yeah, exactly.
That's right. Exactly.
Exactly. And and this is a concept, and maybe it's the first time that you guys are going to hear this word, but God, well, not you guys, but our audience are going to hear the word God the Supreme. And it's a concept that we're going to be unpacking throughout this Divine Within project, because it's a very important concept that we're all part of.
Yeah, what you're talking about reminds me that anybody who's had a child, or anybody that's had like the experience that Diane has had in medical school or whatever, how could you not believe in a divine creator? When you see, and I've used this term before, when you see the simple complexity of life itself, how can you not believe that there's some intelligence that has created all this? I think that when we look at, like you're talking about, the spiral in nature and things like that, and the different things that make up our physical body, and then but then we understand that this physical body isn't us, that there's something, as we say with the show, the divine within. There's something within us that far transcends the material. How could anyone ever possibly have the idea that there's or question the existence of God, or the questions the God creating all of this?
Capture what you've been saying and put it into the tutor. And it was talking about domain of life is characterized by 3, 7, and 12 by multiples and combinations of these basic numbers. The number 10, the decimal system, is inherent in the physical universe, but not in the spiritual. Wondering, how does that tie in? If we have
Okay.
8 and 10 together, that is 13. Wondering, when it said it could be a combination, some of those basic numbers, a key to what you've been saying.